from the desert horizon. Captain Ryan Hale stood on the ridge, watching the thin golden shimmer in the air grow into shapes. At first he thought it was heat haze, but then the shapes solidified into massive alien war machines moving in perfect formation. The air trembled with a deep hum that rattled the stones beneath his boots. The United Earth forces had been told this region was secure. The war was supposed to be far from here. But the radio crackled with frantic voices, reports of strange ships landing outside human borders and of armored warriors that looked like something from another age, yet carried weapons far beyond human science. Ryan had trained for battle, but nothing prepared him for the sight before him. The aliens were tall, graceful, and armored in gold that caught the sunlight like fire. Their helmets had sharp ridges, their chest plates shimmered with strange symbols, and their long cloaks moved like liquid metal. They advanced without sound, except for the humming energy weapons strapped to their backs. Behind them, the horizon shimmered with the haze of more troops arriving. Ryan raised his binoculars and froze. The one at the center of the front line was different. Her armor was more ornate, etched with patterns that glowed faintly. Even from a distance, he could see her presence command the others. She moved like royalty, each step deliberate, her head turning as if she was already aware of him watching. A chill went through him, though the sun was hot on his face. The order came through his earpiece. "Hold your position. Do not engage unless fired upon." Ryan knew it was foolish. This was no scouting party. This was an invasion. He signaled to the small unit beside him, telling them to stay low. His heartbeat pounded in his ears as the alien force stopped just 100 meters away. The front ranks shifted. The Golden Warrior stepped aside, and the one he had been watching walked forward. She was taller than most of the others, her armor catching the sunlight in blinding flashes. Her helmet hid her face completely, the visor dark and unreadable. Ryan's soldiers raised their weapons, but he held up his hand, unsure whether firing now would be their end. She stopped a few paces in front of him. For a moment, neither moved. The wind carried fine grains of sand between them. Then, with a slow and deliberate motion, she lifted her hands to the sides of her helmet. The locking seals released with a hiss, and she pulled it free. Silver-white hair spilled out, catching the sun like strands of light. Her face was impossible. Perfect lines, flawless skin, eyes the color of molten gold. Ryan's breath caught, and before he realized, the word escaped his lips like a confession. "Gorgeous," he whispered. Her lips curved into the faintest smile, though it held no warmth. She studied him, her gaze unblinking. "Human," she said in a voice that was low, yet carried in the still air. "You are the one I came for." The words were not a threat, but they carried a weight that made his skin prickle. Around them, the Golden Warriors shifted, their weapons angled toward his men. Ryan realized one wrong move would mean death for all of them. "Why me?" he asked, forcing his voice steady. She tilted her head, as if the answer should be obvious. "Because you stood when others hid. Because you looked at me without fear." Her eyes flicked to his soldiers. "You will come with me. Alone." The demand was clear. Refuse. And there would be blood in the sand. Ryan's mind raced. Every instinct screamed to refuse. But another voice whispered that this might be the only way to learn what these invaders wanted. He glanced at his men, saw the fear in their eyes, and knew they could not survive a fight here. He lowered his weapon slowly, never breaking her gaze. The alien princess stepped closer, close enough that he could see the faint shimmer of energy around her armor. She leaned in just slightly. "Do not resist, and you will live," she murmured. Then she turned sharply, signaling to her warriors. Two stepped forward, flanking Ryan as she began walking back toward her forces. Each step she took seemed to pull him deeper into a game he didn't understand. The alien warriors surrounded Ryan as they moved through the desert. Their golden armor gleamed under the blazing sun, each piece reflecting light like a blade. He could hear the faint hum of their weapons and the synchronized rhythm of their steps. The princess walked ahead without looking back, her silver hair glinting in the sunlight. His mind raced with questions. Who was she? Why had she chosen him? The silence of the march made every thought louder in his head. He kept glancing at the warriors beside him, but they gave no sign of emotion or recognition. It was as if they were carved from living metal. After nearly an hour, the shimmering outlines of alien structures rose from the sand. Tall spires of gold and black metal curved into the sky, connected by glowing bridges that seemed to float. Strange banners rippled in the wind, each marked with the same symbol he had seen etched on the princess's armor. The air here felt heavier, charged with some unseen power. They entered through an archway guarded by more soldiers. No one spoke as they passed. Every pair of eyes followed him, assessing, judging. Ryan felt the weight of their stares but forced himself to keep walking. The princess's pace never faltered as she led him deeper into the city. At last, they reached a grand courtyard. Polished stone reflected the sunlight, and in the center stood a raised platform surrounded by alien glyphs carved into the floor. The princess stepped onto it, turning to face him. "This is where you will wait," she said. Her voice carried the same calm authority as before. "Until I decide what to do with you," Ryan clenched his jaw. "You could tell me why I'm here," he said. The princess studied him for a long moment, then stepped closer. "Because you will play a part in what is coming," she replied. "Whether you wish to or not." Her words sent a chill through him, though the sun burned overhead. Two warriors approached and stood beside him. Their hands rested on the hilts of strange, curved blades. "You will not leave this place without my permission," the princess added. "And you will not speak to anyone unless I allow it." She gave a final glance before turning away, her cloak swirling behind her. The warriors moved to block his path. The day dragged on as he waited under their watch. Alien civilians passed by at a distance, their eyes darting toward him. Some whispered, others simply stared. He could see the fear in some of their faces and the contempt in others. Whatever these people thought of humans, it was not kindness. As night fell, glowing orbs lit the courtyard with a soft golden light. The princess returned, her armor now replaced with a flowing garment that shimmered like liquid silver. She walked up to him, her expression unreadable. "Come," she said simply. "There is something you must see." They walked through narrow streets lined with strange statues and glowing vines. The air smelled faintly of spice and metal. Ryan noticed how the warriors stationed at every corner saluted her with a fist to their chest. She didn't acknowledge them, her focus fixed ahead. Finally, they reached a towering hall with doors taller than any building he had seen on Earth. The doors opened soundlessly, revealing a vast chamber filled with a giant holographic map. Planets and star systems floated in the air, shifting slowly in patterns. The princess led him to the center and gestured toward a glowing sphere. "This is your world," she said, "and it is in danger greater than you know." Ryan stared at the image of Earth suspended in the air. "From you?" he asked. She shook her head. "From something far worse. My people came not to conquer, but to prepare. You will help me. Unite your kind before it arrives." Her golden eyes locked onto his. "If you refuse, your world will burn before the first battle is even fought." Ryan's gaze stayed fixed on the holographic Earth. The rotating sphere looked so peaceful here, suspended in light, far from the chaos he had left behind in the desert. Yet the princess's words echoed in his mind, painting a picture of a threat greater than anything humanity had faced before. He wanted to demand proof, but her golden eyes warned him that such answers would not come easily. The map shifted suddenly. A dark red mass began to spread across several star systems, swallowing planets one by one. The image moved closer, revealing strange shapes moving within the red. They looked like enormous living shadows, twisting and coiling as if hungry. "These are the Drossari," she said. "World eaters. They do not speak. They do not negotiate. They consume everything." He took a step back, trying to process her words. "Why would they come to Earth?" he asked. The princess walked around. The map, her armored boots echoing on the polished floor. "They go where life thrives," she explained. "Your planet is rich, vibrant, full of resources they crave. Once they sense it, they will come, and nothing you have will stop them." Ryan folded his arms, forcing his voice to stay calm. "And you expect me to believe you're here to help? Us?" Her gaze didn't waver. "I am here to lead the resistance," she said. "But I cannot do it without a human voice that your leaders will trust. They will never listen to me alone. You are that voice, whether you wish it or not." The weight of her words pressed heavily on him. He had been a soldier, yes, but never a diplomat. Still, something in her tone told him refusal was not an option. Around them, the map continued its slow rotation, the red mass spreading farther each second. "What happens if I say no?" he asked quietly. Her answer was instant. "Then your people will die, and I will seek another who can speak for them." She gestured, and the image shifted again. This time it showed a ruined city under a blackened sky. Alien buildings lay in smoking ruins, and strange creatures swarmed through the streets. Ryan saw flashes of gold among the wreckage, the same armor her warriors wore, lying broken on the ground. "This was one of our colonies," she said. "It fell in a single day." The silence in the hall deepened. Ryan found himself looking at her differently. She was not simply a conqueror in shining armor. There was loss in her voice, buried beneath the command. "Why me?" he asked again, softer this time. She stepped closer, her expression unreadable. "Because you are not afraid to speak the truth, even to those who could kill you. And because when you saw me, you did not see only an enemy." He thought back to that moment in the desert, when she had removed her helmet. Something about it still felt unreal. Yet here she was, speaking of a war that would erase everything he had ever known. The logical part of him wanted to reject it all, but another part whispered that she was telling the truth. That whisper was growing louder. The princess turned away and began walking toward the far end of the hall. "Come," she ordered. "There is more you must see." He followed her through another set of towering doors into a vast chamber lined with transparent walls. Beyond them was a view of the alien city from above, its spires glowing under the night sky. Ships moved in precise patterns between landing platforms, each one carrying troops or supplies. "This is only the beginning," she said. "Our forces are gathering from across the sector. But they are not enough. We will need your world's armies, its fleets, its strength. Without unity, we will all fall." She turned to face him again, her voice steady. "Will you stand with me, human?" Ryan didn't answer immediately. His gaze moved over the city, the soldiers, the ships. Somewhere out there, an unstoppable force was drawing closer. He could feel the weight of the choice pressing on him, and he knew the wrong decision would doom far more than just himself. Ryan followed the princess through the winding corridors of the alien stronghold. The walls shimmered faintly with embedded light patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat. The air carried a faint metallic tang, and the sound of distant engines vibrated under his boots. Every alien they passed stopped to bow slightly before her, their eyes briefly flicking toward him with unreadable expressions. They emerged onto a high balcony overlooking a massive open training ground. Dozens of alien warriors moved in perfect synchronization, their golden armor flashing under the bright lights. Energy blades hummed as they clashed, while gunners practiced with weapons that spat glowing projectiles into hovering targets. The sheer precision of their movements was unnerving. Ryan had seen disciplined human troops, but this was something else entirely. The princess stepped forward and gestured toward the warriors below. "These are my elite," she said. "Each one has fought the Drossery and survived. Each one would give their life without hesitation if I commanded it." Her voice was steady, but Ryan caught a flicker of something else, pride mixed with burden. It was clear that these warriors were more than soldiers to her. He leaned on the balcony rail, watching as two lines of fighters charged each other. The clash was explosive, energy blades cutting arcs of light in the air. Shields absorbed strikes with bursts of heat and color. Ryan realized this was not for show. They were training for enemies that would come at them with relentless force, and they were preparing to face them without fear. The princess turned to him. "Your people fight with courage," she said, "but courage alone will not be enough. You lack unity. You lack weapons that can pierce the Drosari hide. That is why we are here. Together we can forge something stronger." Her golden eyes locked onto his, holding him in place like a command he could not ignore. Before he could respond, a deep alarm echoed through the training ground. The warriors froze for only a moment before shifting into defensive positions. Massive gates at the far end of the field slid open, revealing a towering creature bound in chains. Its skin was black and ridged like stone, its many eyes glowing a sickly red. Ryan felt the air grow heavier as the beast roared, the sound rattling. "His bones! This is a captive Drosari spawn," the princess explained. "We keep it to train our warriors against the real thing." She signaled with a sharp motion, and the chains fell away. The creature lunged forward with terrifying speed, meeting the front line of warriors in a blur of violence. Blades struck. Energy bolts flashed, and the air filled with the stench of burning flesh. Ryan gripped the railing, unable to look away. The fight lasted less than a minute. The warriors moved with flawless coordination, driving the creature back and cutting it down with brutal efficiency. When it finally collapsed, the ground trembled from the impact. The smell of scorched armor and alien blood lingered in the air. Ryan knew then that these fighters were ready for war, and that anything capable of killing them would be beyond human nightmares. The princess faced him again. "Now you see what we are up against," she said. "The Drossery will not stop. They will not tire. And when they reach Earth, they will slaughter everything in their path. We can only win if we stand as one." Her voice carried a quiet intensity that made him believe every word. Ryan felt the weight of the choice pressing harder than ever. He thought of his home, of the soldiers under his command, of the cities that would burn if this enemy came. The princess had shown him her strength, but also her desperation. He realized she was not simply recruiting him. She was placing the survival of two worlds in his hands. The princess led Ryan through a set of towering crystal doors into a vast chamber filled with a circular table made of dark, polished stone. Around it sat alien leaders in robes of deep blue, silver, and crimson, their faces marked with unique symbols. Each one turned to watch as the princess entered, their eyes narrowing when they saw the human at her side. "This is Captain Ryan Hale," she announced. "He has seen the truth of our enemy and understands the danger they bring. I have chosen him to be the human voice in our alliance." Her words caused a ripple of murmurs around the table. Ryan felt the weight of their stares, knowing that every one of them was judging whether he belonged here. One of the leaders, an older alien with skin like weathered bronze, leaned forward. "Why should we trust a human?" he asked. "Your people know nothing of the Drossari. You are divided, untested in battles of this scale." Ryan stepped forward before the princess could answer. "Because we have no choice," he said firmly. "If you fall, we fall. And if we fall, the Drossari will have one less enemy to slow them down." Another leader, draped in silver robes, spoke sharply. "You are bold for one so small in this galaxy. Boldness does not win wars. Unity does." Ryan met his gaze without flinching. "Then teach us. Train us. Fight beside us. Let us prove we can stand as one." His words hung in the air, and for a moment no one spoke. The princess glanced at the others, her golden eyes daring them to argue. "You have all seen what happens when worlds face the Drossari alone," she said. "You know how quickly they fall. Earth will not survive without us, and we will not survive without Earth." Her voice carried a finality that silenced even the most skeptical faces. After a long pause, the leader in crimson robes nodded slowly. "Very well. We will hear more from this human." A subtle shift in the room told Ryan he had passed the first test, though he knew more trials would come. The princess placed a hand on his shoulder and led him to stand beside her at the table. Holographic. Maps bloomed above the surface, showing fleets, supply lines, and battle projections. Some were marked in green, others in red, and the red areas were growing. Ryan watched as entire sectors blinked out, replaced by dark, empty space. "This is the pace of their advance," the princess said quietly. "Every day we delay costs, thousands of lives." Ryan studied the maps, feeling the urgency in the room. "What is your plan?" he asked. One of the leaders gestured toward the green sectors. "We will fortify these worlds first, forming a defensive wall. But to hold it, we will need Earth's ships and soldiers. We will need them to fight without hesitation." The unspoken message was clear. If humanity failed, the wall would collapse. He thought about the political divisions on Earth, the mistrust between nations. Convincing them to unite would be harder than any battle. Yet as he looked at the alien leaders, he realized they faced the same challenge here. They too were many worlds with their own agendas. If they could set aside their differences, perhaps humans could too. The meeting stretched on as strategies were debated and alliances discussed. Ryan spoke when needed, listening more than he talked. The princess never left his side, offering silent assurance that he belonged here. When the council finally adjourned, she led him from the chamber and into a quiet corridor where the hum of the city returned to their ears. "You spoke well," she said. "Some will still doubt you, but they cannot deny your conviction. Hold on to it. We will need it in the days to come." Ryan gave a short nod, knowing this was only the beginning of his role in a war that could decide the fate of two worlds. Dawn rose over the alien city as carriers lifted from their pads. Ryan stood on the ramp of a golden dropship, helmet in his hands, heart steady but alert. The princess approached in full armor, the etched symbols along her chest glowing like embers. "Today you fight with us," she said. He slid on his helmet and met her gaze through the visor without a word. Their target was a mining moon beyond the nearest jump gate. Scouts had reported Drossari activity inside the tunnels, feeding on power cores and choking vents with living resin. If the enemy secured the moon, a third of the sector would go dark. Ryan reviewed the squad roster on his wrist display and counted 12 alien elites plus 4 human marines from his unit. Inside the dropship, the cabin lights shifted from blue to white. The pilot's voice came through clear and calm. 2 minutes to insertion. Weapons hissed as power cells locked in. Energy blades warmed with a soft hum. Ryan checked each human's seal and then looked across to the princess, who nodded once. The ramp shook as the ship hit turbulence over the cratered surface. They landed in a spray of dust beside a yawning shaft that cut into the moon like a wound. Cold air rushed up from the darkness, carrying a faint, bitter smell. The princess raised 2 fingers, and the squad formed a wedge. Ryan took position at the left flank, rifle up, motion tracker steady. The tunnel swallowed their lights as they moved below. The walls pulsed with a dull, organic glow that grew brighter as they descended. Alien resin covered support beams like black roots, and vents exhaled slow breaths of heat. Ryan marked junctions on his map and relayed short updates. The squad advanced without chatter, every footstep placed with care. Far ahead, something scraped against stone and then fell silent. They reached the main chamber and found the power core half cocooned in resin. Dozens of egg-like sacs clung to the machinery, trembling as if they were listening. The princess raised her palm and the elites fanned out. "Cut them," she ordered. Ryan signaled his marines to guard the north access, while he and the princess moved to the core. The first egg split with a wet snap and a Drossari spawn spilled out, all teeth and armored limbs. Ryan fired a tight burst into the mouth as the princess stepped in and drove her blade beneath the jaw. More eggs shook, thin membranes stretching as shapes pushed from within. "Left wall!" Ryan called. Energy bolts cracked the darkness while the elites formed a shield line to hold the breach. The floor shuddered as a larger shape forced its way through a vent. It was a crawler, its spine arched like a bow, its eyes burning a deeper red. The creature lunged at the shield line and smashed 2 warriors back. Ryan sprinted to the angle and fired into the eye cluster while the princess vaulted over the shield wall. She landed on the crawler's neck and drove her blade down until the beast went still. Heat spiked. The power core was overloading, its housing jammed with hardening resin. "If it blows, we lose the entire site," Ryan said. He holstered his rifle and pulled a cutter from his kit. The princess covered him as he sliced the resin away in strips, steam rising with each cut. Drossari spawn clawed from vents behind them and struck the shield line again with wild fury. A human marine cried out as a spawn dragged him toward a pit. Ryan dropped the cutter, slid on his knees, and caught the marine's arm. The princess pivoted, flicked her wrist, and her blade severed the spawn's limb. Together they hauled the marine clear. Ryan snapped a restraint across the core housing and wrenched a fused panel free. Power levels steadied, climbing from critical to stable with a soft chime. "Extraction," the princess commanded. The squad peeled back toward the shaft while charges detonated along the walls to seal the side tunnels. Resin burned with harsh light as the path cleared. At the mouth of the shaft, a final wave of spawn poured from the ceiling like a living storm. Ryan and the princess stood shoulder to shoulder, bolts and blades turning the rush into ash and silence. They broke into daylight as the second dropship touched down with dust swirling around its struts. The pilot waved them aboard while medics pulled the injured marine inside. Ryan turned to the princess, both of them streaked with resin and soot. "You fought like one of us," she said. He removed his helmet and breathed the thin, cold air, feeling the truth of the words settle in his chest like an oath. The journey back from the mining moon was silent except for the low hum of the dropship's engines. Ryan sat across from the princess, both of them still streaked with dried resin and soot. The human marines were exhausted, their armor scorched, but their eyes carried the same realization he felt. They had fought together and survived, and that meant something no words could fully explain. When they landed at the alien stronghold, the council was already waiting in the courtyard. Leaders in blue, silver, and crimson robes stepped forward to hear the report. The princess spoke first, describing the enemy's numbers, the state of the power core, and the coordination between human and alien forces. Ryan noticed how she gave equal credit to his marines, as if to tell the council that humans had earned their place. One of the council members, the elder with bronze skin, nodded slowly. "Your kind fights with more discipline than I expected," he said to Ryan. "Perhaps there is hope in this alliance." Ryan kept his reply simple. Hope is all we have, but it will be enough if we fight together." His words earned a few approving murmurs, though some faces still held doubt. The princess dismissed the squad and led Ryan toward the strategy hall. "They see you differently now," she said as they walked. "But respect in this council is never given freely. You will need to show them again and again that you are more than an outsider." Ryan glanced at her, sensing that this advice came from her own experience as much as from caution. Inside the hall, the holographic map showed the same growing red mass they had seen before, but now a flashing marker indicated the Drossari advance toward another system. "If they take this world," the princess said, pointing to the marker, "they will gain a direct path to 3 others. The wall we have built will collapse." Her tone carried no fear, only determination. Ryan studied, the data streams flowing alongside the map. "You want to send another joint team?" he guessed. She nodded. "But this time, you will lead it." The weight of her words hit him harder than any battle. He had just proven himself in the field, and now she was asking him to command a force that would determine whether an entire world survived. "Why me?" he asked. Her eyes held his without wavering. "Because the humans will follow you, and my warriors will obey me. Together, we will move as one. Alone, either side will hesitate, and hesitation means death." Ryan knew she was right. He also knew that accepting meant stepping into a role with no room for mistakes. The princess called up a list of the combined unit she had in mind, half human, half alien. Each fighter had experience, but none had ever fought side by side except for the few who had been on the mining moon. Ryan scanned the names and saw his best Marines listed alongside her most decorated warriors. "They'll have to trust each other fast," he said. "They will," she replied, "or they will die together." She closed the display and stepped closer. "There is one more thing," she said. "The Drossari have begun seeding fear through intercepted transmissions. They want our worlds to believe resistance is hopeless. We must strike quickly before that fear takes root." Her voice carried a conviction that burned through the weight of the moment. Ryan nodded slowly. "Then we hit them before they expect it," he said. The princess gave a faint smile. "Good. Prepare your people. We leave at first light." The order was clear, but Ryan could feel the unspoken truth beneath it. This mission would not be just another strike. It would be the moment their fragile alliance either solidified or shattered. The hangar roared with the sound of engines as humans and aliens prepared side by side. Ryan moved through the lines, checking gear and speaking brief words to each fighter. The princess was already at the front, her silver hair braided tightly beneath her helmet. Her armor bore fresh markings, symbols of command that caught the light like fire. This was no longer just her mission or his. It belonged to all of them. The dropships lifted into the cold dark of space. Ryan sat opposite the princess, the hum of the engines steady in his ears. Between them, the squad remained silent, their focus absolute. Outside, the stars shifted as the ships entered the jump gate. A ripple of energy passed through the cabin, and then the black of space gave way to the burning red glow of the target system. Their destination was a fortress world under siege. From orbit, they could see the surface crawling with Drossari swarms, black shapes moving like waves across the plains. Massive towers spat energy fire into the advancing tide, but the lines were breaking. The princess pointed to a cluster of enemy formations near the central command tower. "We break them here," she said. "If the tower falls, the planet falls." The dropships came in low over the smoking battlefield. Anti-air fire arced upward, rattling the hull. Ryan's squad hit the ground running, forming a spear point that drove straight toward the enemy flank. Alien warriors cut through the first line with blades of light, while human marines poured disciplined bursts into the gaps. The Drossari roared, their movements fast and brutal, but the formation held, Ryan fought at the front with the princess beside him. Her blade carved glowing arcs through the air, each strike ending in a kill. He moved in rhythm with her, covering her flank and driving enemies back with controlled fire. The ground shook as a massive Drossari brute charged through its own swarm, scattering smaller creatures like debris. The princess met it head-on, her armor clashing against its claws as Ryan emptied his rifle into its chest. The brute collapsed, but not before tearing a gash in her shoulder plate. Ryan moved to cover her as she regained her stance. "I am not so easily broken," she said sharply, pushing forward again. Together they reached the base of the command tower, where defenders fought desperately to hold the entrance. Ryan signaled his squad to reinforce the line, while the princess rallied the alien soldiers with a single raised hand. The battle inside the tower was even fiercer. Narrow corridors forced close combat, and every step forward came at the cost of blood. Ryan's Marines fought back-to-back with alien elites, their trust now unspoken and absolute. The princess moved like a living blade, her strikes precise and unstoppable. At last, they reached the control chamber where a Drossari commander writhed in a cocoon of armor and spines. It let out a shriek that shook the walls, then lunged with impossible speed. Ryan ducked under its strike, rolling to its side and firing into the joint of its armor. The princess seized the opening, driving her blade through the base of its skull. The commander collapsed, its death cry echoing through the tower. Outside, the swarm faltered, their coordination breaking without their leader. The defenders pressed the advantage, driving the Drossari back toward the plains. By the time the smoke cleared, the field was littered with enemy corpses and shattered resin. The princess stood at the top of the tower beside Ryan, looking out over the reclaimed city. "This world stands," she said simply. Ryan looked at her and knew that their alliance had passed its trial. When they returned to the stronghold, the council greeted them not with doubt, but with honor. The leaders bowed their heads to both of them, a gesture Ryan understood needed no translation. The princess removed her helmet, meeting his eyes with the faintest smile. "You were right," she said. "Hope was enough." And for the first time since the war began, Ryan allowed himself to believe they could win.